One is the loneliest number you'll ever know. I'm just kidding. I guess I'm flying solo this week. It's episode 45 of 21st Century Rocker Mom podcast. Actually, we were having a conversation today about podcasts, and I put a post up on my Instagram today talking about how most podcasts and podcasters quit after episode 10. Rob was actually telling me that not too long ago. We were having a conversation about it, and so I posted about it on my Instagram today. And I don't think a lot of people knew that. And you know what? Until Rob told me, I didn't know it. But I think a lot of people get into podcasting or whatever they get into, and they don't realize the levity and the difficulty of the work that is involved. And then they're just like, fuck this shit, man, I quit. But you know what? Here I am. I'm showing up week after week with you, except when I take my little breaks and stuff and have my like little vacays for 2 or 3 weeks at a time, or somebody, unfortunately like passes away or something like that. But generally, I am here with you week after week, doing it well. I represent me. I was raised out of London. So it's obviously it's the motherfucking Tanya show tonight. I know, how absolutely self-serving of me. But like I slammed my finger in the door today and I slipped on some ice a little bit. And so I had to take some muscle relaxant. So you're just gonna have to deal with this obnoxiousness. But I decided to kind of do this episode because we have got a lot of new followers and new folks around in the Candler camp. So I decided, since Camp Candler's filling up with new friends, there are a lot of new friends around, I thought I would reintroduce myself and maybe like even reintroduce myself for people who just started listening to the podcast and can't be bothered to go back to listen to all 44 other episodes or more, or maybe there were a few episodes that you just wanted to listen to for, kiddie stuff. Maybe, some people like the paranormal stuff. People like that. Maybe some of you listen to all of the episodes. Some of you are the diehards that listen to all of them. So I wanted to do a little bit of something for everybody and just, get back in the fast lane with, just telling you a little about how this weird little machine that is me works. So, if I was going to do this, like those questions that you see on Facebook, like ask your little kids these questions and see what they say. And they're always funny. And I had to write them down because I can't remember all this shit. It's like, what do I do for a job? What's my favorite food? Like, what is something I say often? Like, these are things like my kids would know. These are things like my dad probably wouldn't know, but my kids would. Literally, I had to have a conversation with my dad the other day about what I fucking do for a living. I was like, Dad, do you actually know what I do for a living? So anyone who listens to the podcast knows that I call my dad Pecan. It's this, that's what it is. So I'm talking to Pecan on the phone. I'm like, do you even know what I do for a living? And he's like, no. And I was like, have you ever listened to my podcast before? He's like, no. I'm like, what the fuck? So I had to direct him on how to do it. And so it was a whole conundrum. So he ended up listening sort of to one of the episodes. But then he started asking me about views and stuff. I'm like, Dad, you got to learn how the internet works. Just as a baseline before we start talking about views and stuff. We're getting too deep down the rabbit hole. But obviously, my name, my age. Obviously, my name is Tanya. I've been here for 38 spins around the sun. It'll be 39 coming up this January. I can't believe it. 39. I'm not worried about getting a little bit older. Actually, I'm kind of excited. Good things for me, with age, have come. So I sound like Starfire from the fucking Teeny Titans. Good things with age have come. Age has brought great things for me, honestly. Everyone's like, oh, I'm so afraid of my 30s. Get dirty. Oh, Lordy, get 40. Get 30. Don't be afraid of aging. It's not a bad thing. But if you are young right now and you're listening to this, stay young as long as you can. Hold on to your innocence. Because you got it good right now. It's not like it was when I was in high school. I mean, I know people are getting shit on and made fun of in high school. In every person who goes to high school probably has a shit time in high school. I will probably say that. That's one thing I can definitely talk about on the show. I got the question, what was high school like for you? And I get it all the time. Like what was high school like for me? High school was kind of shitty for me. Like really academically, it was super good. I was really good academically. I got good grades. I kept my marks up, even though with Kitty and stuff, we were back and forth to like Toronto, or we'd have a show out of town, like even on weeknights, and we'd be at school. Like I was talking to one of the girls the other day, and like we were saying, like we'd be at school like the next day at like 8:00 in the morning for our first class in high school. We'd be recording Spit, and we'd be at school the next day for fucking high school. We'd be doing our homework at the studio, but the next day we'd be in high school, even though we didn't leave the studio till like 11:00. We'd been going at high school since 8:00 in the morning and quitting at the studio at 11:00 at night. Like we were going like hard. So, I'm used to kind of like not stopping. So that is a little bit about the high school experience. But like when I was actually at school, if people were not nice to me, they were not nice to like most of us girls in the band, or most of us like folks that hung out within the mall goth sort of new metal sort of community. Anyone who was kind of like outcast, not a big old jock or whatever at the high school that I went to, honestly got treated like shit. People were fucking shitty. I will say people were really shitty. I mean, I dyed my hair bright pink and wore a fucking tiara to school like I was Miss World. Somebody kill me. Well, no, nobody killed me, but they all made fun of me like a motherfucker. So, I mean, I don't know if I brought it upon myself. I wanted the attention, or if it's the wrong kind of attention. I was friends with a lot of my teachers, though. That's one thing I will say about high school. I had a lot of like, not adult conversations, but more mature conversations, because I wanted to talk to my teachers about intellectual things, about books I'd read. I was way ahead of the kids in my class. I already read shit that our teachers were assigning us, because it's something that I already like to do. That's one thing about me that you need to know. I love to read. I would rather read a book than watch the movie, like adaptation of it. I'll watch the movie generally after, but I really would like most of the time to read the book first. Or like if it's a graphic novel, I'd like to see it on paper first before I see it on screen. That's generally the way I go. And I'm a big reader. I love to read. I have shelves full of books, and I've read all of them. My favorite writers. I like a lot of counterculture. So honestly, I love Carlos Castaneda, but I love like true crime novels, and I love horror books. God. I love all the old Fear Street and R.L. Stine books and stuff like that. And like one of my kids is like just turned 7, and he's like, "Oh, can I get all the Fear Street books?" And I'm just like, "You can get Goosebumps like for now, my friend." That's not happening. But like I have a feeling that we're gonna just like transition into this area. I think the youngest one's gonna get the Babysitters Club. For anyone is my age, you know what the fucking Babysitters Club is. Obviously, I'm into paranormal. I've done a few programs on it, like with Rob. We've talked about like Ed and Lorraine Warren. I love talking about paranormal things, because so many strange paranormal sort of things have happened to me that I'm really interested in the topic and the subject. And of ghosts, I have an absolutely unnatural obsession with Amityville. I will watch every and any documentary on it, all except for this one documentary that I stumbled upon. And I think it was like supposed to be a movie / documentary. It was like a mockumentary. And everything's cool. They get to the house in Long Island and everything like that. And they get to the Amityville house. And then, like 20 minutes into it, like some people are like having sex on a sink. I'm like, click. It was like an immediate like turn off for me with the movie. I'm like, what does this have to do with Amityville? Anyone who's seen Amityville, you'll know like it's not about that. So it flies on windows. It's about some scary shit. Speaking of scary shit, I said earlier there was going to be a giveaway. There's going to be a giveaway, not on the podcast, but I was going to talk about a giveaway on the podcast. One of my passions, Bob Ross, I'm not like Bob Ross, but is painting. I love painting. I've posted my art before in, past time, and people are like, when are you going to sell that? I'm like, I'm not going to sell it. It's just something that I do in my spare time. It's actually something that I do that's like a nerve reliever, and it's good for anxiety, depression. Anytime you're feeling crappy, sit down, paint honestly, put a paintbrush in my hand, I feel awesome. But I paint like things that I'll see in like my dreams. I don't sleep a lot, but when I do, if I have a nightmare, usually it's a doozy. So I have this painting that I'm working on, and it's about 4x6, 5x7-ish, and it's of this malevolent being. It's starting to be this malevolent being. It looks almost beast-like, almost pig-like, with like big horns and stuff. So when I'm finished, I'm gonna post it on Instagram, and we're gonna give it away. I'm just gonna do like a random number draw. I'm only making one of these canvases. I'm gonna do it with acrylic on canvas. I'm gonna do one of them, and we're gonna give it away. We're gonna make it fun and make a whole fun giveaway of it. So that is what I'm giving away. So that's the secret that you had to tune into this episode to hear. I'm going to give away an original painting because, you know what? Why not? I love paintings, and if you like the dark sort of arts and the gothy stuff, I will send it to you wherever you are. If you're in the US and Canada, I know I got a few listeners in Australia. I will get it to your ass if you are drawn. Okay? As long as you enter, your name will be put in one of those random, I don't know, Google number generators. I'll probably do it live, so no one thinks I'm doing anything ooky or spooky or weird. I'll just pull it out of a hat or something. Who knows? But no, so I'm going to give away a painting, and hopefully you will win. So I wish you the best good luck, because I love the paranormal and horror, like I say, and true crime. And we're getting a lot more guests on the podcast lately. Soon, I think we're going to do it via telephone, because I don't know how she's going to hook it up on the internet, because she doesn't know how to do internet camera, apparently. But I'm going to try to get my mom on the podcast, because she has the best fucking, like, family stories ever. I'm going to get her to, like, maybe, like, because of, like, the bubbling and stuff and all the stuff we do here to stay safe, I want to try to get her, like, I don't know, one of those PCR tests up her nose or whatever like that, to make sure that she's got nothing, and maybe she can come over here and shoot it. I wish. But anyways, maybe we'll get her via telephone. Pipe her in. I want to get my mom on the podcast, because she's got the funniest fucking, like, stories ever. Like, me stories. Like, you're going to die. I'm probably going to die. Like, O'Doyle rules. She'll just tell all the Tanya stories from, like, small to big. Like, anytime she, like, talks to Rob on the phone, he'll be like, oh, like, I'll pick up your phone. What's your mom calling? I'll pick up your phone. Because he wants to talk to her and hear stories about me and, like, weird shit that I did with, like, when I was a teenager. Or she'll talk about something I did, like, for instance, while, like, I was in Kitty, or, like, something that I haven't told him yet. Or maybe, like, I forgot and I didn't mean to not tell him. Like, you know, she caught me at a bush bash or something like that. And he'll just, oh, I know something about you. And then I'll get that later. And speaking of bush bashes that are in the woods, it's another hobby I have. This is something I asked this week again on my Instagram. And I asked about weird hobbies and what's your weird hobby. And I had a few people let me know their hobbies. And one was dog watching instead of bird watching. That's what I'm totally guilty of too. I'll be like outside and I'll be like waving at the dogs walking by. My neighbors are like waving their asses off, and I'm waving at their dogs. I'm just like, good morning, hello. And I'm fucking talking to their dogs. I'm just like, what's up, people I don't know? What's up, dogs, though? They're all so cute. So dog watching is definitely on the list. But I'm like the log lady, and my log has something to tell you, and it's probably that it needs to be chopped, chainsawed, thrown an axe at, hatchet, you name it, I cut it. I love wood, and then I also love building fires. If there was one child that was probably like made to live in the bush, it was this kid right here. I like grew up pretty like wild at the cottage. We had a fort when I was a kid, and this is hilarious because I've talked about this fort before on the podcast. It was called The Legend of the Bear, and we had a song about it. It was The Legend of the Bear, and it was his home down there. It was this huge aqueduct pipe at my cottage that was huge. It was bigger than the room I'm in right now. It was just gigantic. And we'd be inside this pipe playing, and we'd be down in the forest. I'm surprised none of us got a tick. At this time, we're like, like stand by me age. We're like between 11 and 12 or so, 10. I don't know. Starting fires. I've already got a pocket knife. I'm already whittling wood, and like I've got a hatchet that I've got in my backpack. Then, so my love of like chopping wood and like being in the wilderness, like started pretty like early. Like I was digging potatoes with my grandparents, and getting pretty dirty pretty early. I got made fun of it a little bit. Like I've always been very like outdoorsy, especially for a girl. I kind of got like made fun of it. I got like the lumberjack thing like thrown at me a lot. I'm like, I don't know why that's funny, but girls can be lumberjacks too. I say often that I don't go to a gym because all these things you can do to keep your body healthy that are outside are free. So why the fuck would I go to a gym with all these fucking mouth breathers on these machines I gotta wipe down with their fucking sweaty bodies all over them, when I could just go outside, chop some wood, throw a fucking axe at a stump or some shit, chainsaw down a fucking tree, tie yourself to the thing. I'm not an arborist by any means. I mean, like I've had a few, close calls. It's not like I'm taking my kids with me to cut down a tree, but you always got to take a buddy with you when you have a chainsaw, because you could get into a serious accident. So when you do go to cut down a tree, even if you are experienced, I don't give a shit. You bring a buddy. That is buddy system fucking number one right there, is chainsawing down a tree. And also with fires, bring a buddy with you too. Make sure those kinds of things are like controlled. The things that I like to do are like kind of wild and crazy, but I always make sure they're controlled, and I always make sure they're responsible. It's a fire outside, there's always like a bucket of water around, or the hose. A fire inside, the flue's open, the door's closed to like our Elmira stove, I guess I will call it. That's what we call it when we were kids. I chopped wood when I was a tiny kid. Like they put an axe in my hand when I was real small. If we needed a tree chopped down, they'd give it to me. If they needed wood split, we'd get a cord of wood, a couple of cords of wood dropped off in the driveway. My Opa would hand me an axe at like 10 or 12 years old. And if I'd be slinging it and hitting a stump and splitting wood for the cottage at, like a young age. So I like doing all that stuff. And I love the outdoorsy stuff too, like cutting the grass. And you've seen this if you subscribe to my Instagram, or if you listen to my podcast at all, you know that I am a grass cutting fucking fanatic. I love cutting the goddamn grass. It's craziness. I don't know why I like doing it and pulling weeds and gardening. But like I say, if there was one person to condition to live in the bush, it would be this bish right here. This bish loves the bush. I didn't mean that literally, but I would live in the bush. I also love barefoot hiking. So speaking of being extreme, I've been watching those Alaskan bush people. I love that show. And the one character on it, he calls himself Bear, and he calls himself the king of the extreme, and everything he likes to do is extreme. He likes to climb trees extreme, and when he falls, he likes to fall extreme. And when he digs a hole, he has to dig it extreme. He slips, it's fucking extreme. Everything this motherfucker does is extreme. He's extreme as fuck. And I'll tell you, I like to do things extreme too. And I've just gotten more extreme as I've gotten older. Since I've been about in my 20s, I've been hiking for a long time. But since I've been in my 20s, I've been barefoot hiking. So I'll mention that, from time to time on my Twitter, or I'll mention it on my Instagram. I'm like, I'm barefoot. And people are like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I'm talking like I'm in bare feet going for a jog through the forest, no matter what season it is. I don't give a shit if it's winter, or I don't give a shit, if there's snow on the ground right now. Will I go outside in bare feet and go for a walk on a city street? No. Will I go to the forest and go for a walk in bare feet, totally bundled up everywhere else? Yes. There's nowhere else I can get a tick in. You got to make sure your clothes are nice and tight if you're the barefoot type. I wouldn't start in the winter if you're not ready for it. Also, I wouldn't start now if you're not ready for it. I have been doing this for a very long time. I was actually telling a doctor friend about this the other day, and she was like, isn't there somewhere you could get a tick? Isn't there, are you going to be okay, doing this? I'm like, I've been doing this for like the last 15 years. And she was like, I'm like, no, actually more, like probably more like 18, 19 years. And she's like, I had no idea. That's nuts. So now my feet, they don't have like a skin or a callus or anything gross or yucky on them. They feel like regular soft feet because of running outside in them. And when I do wear feet, they're like a moccasin style, like house slipper. And they're not moccasins by any means because they're like plastic and things like that. They're not nice material. But I wear them outside when I go like anywhere. For instance, last night on Friday night, we went to go see this crazy Magic of the Lights in Mount Bridges, Ontario. Holy smokes, it's on Longwoods Road. If you can get tickets, I would recommend getting them before because you can get them at the door, but I think that might be like a COVID fucking nightmare. It was like masks on, everybody had masks on, you scan your ticket, you can scan your QR code, far away from the people and put your masks on, even though it's outside and they say you don't have to wear a mask. Be safe. It's cold and flu season, people. Don't be a dumbass. You know how things get transmitted. You know how they don't. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But this Magic of the Lights, it was over 2 million lights. And we took the kids, of course, because it was our eldest just turned 7 last week, which is fucking insane to think that we have a 7-year-old. It's crazy to think that I have a 7-year-old. It's crazy to think 7 trips around the sun with my son. That's nuts. So we're like, this is also part of like your birthday. Let's make your birthday into a week. Let's make it your birthday week and we'll go and we'll see all these lights. Well, the kids were lit up like a Christmas tree. And they were like, Mom, will you ride in the back with us? So to leave Dad to just drive in the front and just leave the backpacks at the front, because of course, everyone who listens to the podcast knows that our eldest is type 1 diabetic. So any car trip anywhere for us, or anywhere, around the corner is a packing and like Tetris thing. We got to make sure we have all the supplies and the juice boxes and the insulin, and make sure we got the low blood sugar and the high blood sugar stuff and all the good things. Then we got to make sure we have the snacks, and we got to make sure, if someone has to pee, we have water bottles. We got all the things around. But they were so mesmerized by the lights, as was I. I felt bad for Rob because he had to drive, but I was in the back seat with kids, and I am not a good backseat person. And I was just like, it's kind of bumpy back there. There's a few I think they're called service roads. And at the conservation area is a bit bumpy and you have to drive slow. And if the one guy in front of us was driving so freaking slow, he actually stopped and traffic went around him. I don't know if he was doing a YouTube video or something for his channel or some TikTok shit. I have no idea. I managed to record it inside my fucking car. No problem. No fucking problem at all. So that was awesome. So yeah, if you can go and you're in Ontario and you're within a close proximity to Mount Bridges from now till just before Christmas time, you can get tickets online. I'll post something about it on my Instagram and you can check that out there because it's so much fun. We had a blast. Now, something I love is, and I've mentioned this before, is ghost hunting and the paranormal. And I was watching a paranormal show the other night, and it was funny. One of the ghost hunters ended up being Ricky Rockets. So if you're around my age, and maybe if your parents listen to good music and you're not around my age, you'll know Poison. And Ricky Rockets, the drummer from Poison, was one of the paranormal investigators, which was awesome, which was crazy. And he had actually gone into this diatribe how he was really sick with cancer. He had gotten really sick with throat cancer, and he had gone on a vegan diet. And if you listen to the podcast, you'll know that I am on a vegan, and I follow a vegan diet and a vegan lifestyle. Ever since I had some health issues, I've been on and off vegetarianism, and I'd done veganism before, but this time it kind of stuck because I had a health nightmare, and I was like, okay, let's go. I've been good as gold ever since. Thank you, veganism. But I did not know with Ricky Rocket being vegan. I started looking at other people that were vegan that I had no idea that were vegan. I have a list of vegan famous people, and I want to say famous people because when I think of famous people, I think of gross people that won't interact with their fans and the people that love them and the people that are the reason that they are as famous as they are, you know what I mean? But people that are in the public eye that are vegans. We got Ricky Rockets, obviously. He's a paranormal investigator now. He's a cool YouTube channel. You should check it out. I follow him on YouTube. Alicia Silverstone. She is a very well-known vegan. If anyone's ever seen Clueless, she wants to be a supermodel. She just doesn't want to eat anything with a face. Woody Harrelson, Joaquin Phoenix, Moby, Olivia Wilde, Casey Affleck, Ben Affleck's brother, Batfleck. Bryan Adams, actually, who is a Canadian and a vegan, he is a sponsor for oat milk. He endorses oat milk, and he's a vegan also. Steve-O from Jackass. Steve-O is a vegan. Alanis Morissette is a vegan. Linda Blair from The Exorcist, when she was puking all that puke around all the way in a circle, that was vegan puke because Linda Blair is a fucking vegan. Rob Zombie and his wife are both vegans. So is the vegan zombies. Both Deschanel sisters, Emily Bones there, if you've ever seen Bones, and Zooey Deschanel. Who's that girl? It's Emily Deschanel and Zooey Deschanel, and they're both vegans. Geezer Butler is famously a vegan. Chrissy Hines a vegan. Another Canadian vegan, Biff Naked. Billie Eilish is a vegan. Rainn Wilson is a vegan. Elliot Page, he's a vegan. Lizzo is a vegan. Lizzo, she's kind of talked about on her Instagram how she's a new vegan and she's just like experiencing all these things. She's loving the shit out of it. It's amazing. I love it. Peter Dinklage, he is a vegan. Russell Brand, vegan. Sadie Sink from Stranger Things, I didn't know this. She is a vegan. Mad Maxine, vegan. Madeline Pesh, action. We got a little Cheryl Blossom from Riverdale, action. She is also a vegan. And finally, badass as fuck, Daisy Ridley is a vegan. None of these people eat anything that has a face. Thank goodness. Now, I got a lot of questions today. Basically, a lot of it, like, wrote the show for me. All the questions did. I got a lot of questions about beards. What is the up with beards? Literally the question was, Tanya, what the fuck is up with beards? I was just like, what do you mean, what the fuck is up with beards? I love them. I have this beard obsession. In fact, in a few weeks, I'm having a very good bearded friend on the show. It is not Rob. I'm having a bearded friend on the show to talk all about the bearded community, beard care, a little bit about rock and roll, a little bit about how we met, and a little bit how we're friends. I'm really excited to have him on the program and talk a little bit more about beards. But I love beards. I love everything to do with them. I love beard oil. I love beard care. I love learning about it. My husband has a giant, majestic fucking beard. So obviously I love beards. I love like Christmas and Santa Claus. So I think that's where the beard love originally came from. I did sit on his lap till I was 24. But like a nice, soft, combed, maintained, nice beard. Like who the fuck doesn't want that? Like on their face. Really. I enjoy good products. So obviously I enjoy like good beard oil. I put it in my hair. And right now I am rocking Iowa Beard Company and I'm rocking Woolly Wizard. I got one. I'm waiting for one. I won on Woolly Wizard. I think it was last week or the week before on roulette, and I'm waiting for it. I know it's been a busy holiday season for them. It's like going to be a spicy orangey one, and it's and peach salsa, a little fresh tobacco in there, and I think some bergamot and apples. I'm really interested to see what the Woolly Wizard has concocted in his cauldron of wonder, to see what this beard oil and butter is actually going to be like. So I'm going to try some in my hair, put some in my hands and see what it's like. But I love beard oil just for the quality of it. I won't use anything that's like shitty. Everything is quality. When I think about jewelry, people are like, hey, DM, be an ambassador for our brand. I'm like, oh, I only wear one brand. That brand is Abby Darling Customs. I'm wearing it on my walking advertisement tonight. Holy fuck. Jesus, Murphy. Just advertising for everyone. But just know, I wear Abby Darling Customs. Got my Volcano Girl brass necklace on here. Got another brass choker. I got my special crystal on here. My quartz. I'll tell you, you know what I miss? I miss concerts. I haven't been to one in a while. And someone asked me, this is from the Q&A portion, this came up. What was the last concert you went to? What was it all about? The last concert I went to was actually Frank Turner. It was here in London, Ontario. It was at the London Music Hall, and it was like an experience in like a super church. It was just like insane. It was like one of the best concerts I've fucking ever been to, and I've been to a lot of goddamn concerts. And Frank Turner was amazing. And I recently put Frank Turner in my stories because I had read a story about how he had trouble with his dad. And I know for a lot of people, reuniting with a parent that you've had a tumultuous relationship with can be very, very difficult. If you watched like Missing Mom, Rob's documentary that's on a lot of platforms right now, you can check it out. You can see that difficult relationships with parents, and especially when you find out that they're just humans, are hard. So it was really difficult for Frank Turner to kind of come out and tell a little bit more about this story, but he made a song about it called Miranda. So it turns out that Frank Turner's dad was really horrible to him growing up, and they kind of parted ways. If you didn't read the story on my Instagram, and he wasn't supportive of him, or he wasn't supportive of his career, and he was a really terrible dad. He was not a good dad. He was just not a good person, being the dad that he was. So they parted ways. But recently, they had gotten back together and found each other again, and he found out that his dad was now a transgender woman named Miranda, and actually that she was quite lovely. That his dad wasn't such a nice person, but Miranda was. And maybe for that person inside his dad that was, having that internal struggle, maybe it was hard. So I listened to the song Miranda, and it got to me. Like, it really made me cry, because like, we did not have that growing up. We did not have that. If you were stuck in a place or in a body where you didn't feel like you belonged, you were just stuck there. And it's now at my age that I'm only seeing friends and loved ones come into who they really are. And it's amazing. That went into questions today too. So I'm going to get into your questions. Most of these came from DMs and TikTok. Some of I got, what was the first thing I ever learned on bass? And truly and honestly, it was the bass line from I Saw Her Standing There by the Beatles. Do 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 do. Well, she was just 17. You know what I mean. Do 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 do. So it's almost like a jazz bass line. It's really kind of funky. Paul McCartney was a really good bass player. I'm finding out this more and more, because it's kind of okay to meet your idols, as I'm finding out. Imagine being a fly on the wall of your favorite band. And one of my favorite bands is the Beatles. And right now on Disney Plus, I have been enjoying the hell out of Get Back, the Beatles documentary. The Peter Jackson has got all this archival footage of the Beatles in the studio. 3 weeks to make an album. And subsequently, they got to put together a show too. Now, what would it be like for you as a viewer to see your favorite band thrown together, just together in the studio, minus Yoko, oh no, in the studio for 3 weeks, smacked together, and they have to make an album? What would you do? Imagine being a fly on the wall for that. For me, as a super fan of the Beatles, this show is a fucking dream come true. It's a goddamn home run. It's all ducks are on the pond. It's a grand slam, Peter Jackson. I love it. It's a grand slam, Beatles. I love it. Paul McCartney laying down the law like a motherfucking boss because everybody else is on heroin or is drunk. He's like the only one who can he's a taskmaster. That's why I like Paul. I like bass players for that reason. They keep the backbone going. So yeah, the first thing I ever learned on bass was I Saw Her Standing There by the Beatles. And they're definitely my favorite, one of my favorite bands from way back, from far out. Another question I've got is, who were your favorite bands and artists when you were in Kitty? So when I was in Kitty, I actually wasn't really so schooled in nu metal when I got into Kitty. So when I first got into Kitty, one of my favorite bands was Hole. I was super influenced by loud, grungy girl bands. I loved Hole, L7, Babes in Toyland, Bikini Kill, those kind of bands. I loved the Lunatics a lot, the Donnas, any bands like that. And those influenced me a ton. But I also loved bands like the Spice Girls. And like I say, I love the Beatles, Neil Young, the Beach Boys, the Grateful Dead. Bands like that really influenced me. I love the Supremes. I grew up with a lot of girl bands, with my mom. Girl bands, girl groups from the 60s. Martha Reeves and the Vandellas. I grew up with the Supremes, like I say, sort of those sort of bands, the girls singing groups. And then my dad kind of introduced me to more metal and Phil Collins. So then when I got into Kitty, I started getting into Korn. I started getting into the Deftones. Then I started getting into bands like My Ruin and Tour Satana with Terry B in them. I really like those kind of new metal bands. I really like Coal Chamber back in the day when I was listening to a lot of those bands. Coal Chamber was my favorite. One super underrated new metal band that we and Kitty did a cover with it. If anyone had a tape of it anywhere, who knows? One of the girls probably does somewhere. But they were called Human Waste Project. After that, they started a band called The Start, the band with a singer by the name of Amy Echo. They're still going, but look for Human Waste Project. If you can find Human Waste Project anywhere, and even The Start, I think I have some CDs lying around somewhere. They're absolutely fantastic. Those were new metal bands that I was into. I loved Manhole Los Angeles when I was in Kitty a lot. There were a lot of bands that like we kind of toured with like on the road. I was kind of into them and I really liked what they were kind of playing at the time. So those are the bands that I was into that I, like when I was in Kitty. I listened to Cannibal Corpse a lot, believe it or not. We toured with them briefly and I listened to them. I listened to a lot of Today Is the Day. I liked the Misfits a lot when I was in Kitty. I mean, a lot of the bands I still like now. Things kind of never change. I find our musical tastes don't change that much. I find they just grow and I like more bands. I don't necessarily like not like any bands anymore. I just grow to like more bands, which is actually pretty cool because a lot of people I know, like especially like my age, will be like, oh, I hate that band now. They just sound like noise to me. I'm like, sounds the same to me. Still sounds like a good band. How did you get interested in metal? Well, how did I get interested in metal? Kitty got me interested in metal big time. Well, truly though, my dad got me interested in metal. First and foremost, he got me interested in David Coverdale in Deep Purple. And so then I got interested in metal and things like that. And then I got into like hair bands and stuff like that. And I loved like Crew and I loved Kiss. And that was metal to me. And then I got into Kitty and then I got into the real like headbanger shit. And then I had a bangover every Sunday after we practiced, officially known as Piss Bag Sundays, because I drank a little bit more homemade beer that I stole than I played bass. I was really bad in the beginning, just starting out. Boom, 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 boom. I practiced a lot. Stole a lot of beer. So beer definitely got me interested in metal. I do not endorse beer though. I don't endorse drinking. That's another thing about me. I am sober. I do not endorse or drink alcohol of any sort at all. I'm not into it. So that's another thing. It is dry. What's the month that's supposed to be dry? Dry February? It is dry February all the time in my mouth. No alcohol gets in there. What's my favorite song that I've ever performed? That's actually a tough question. Probably a studio performance, honestly. I was recording with a band with Mercedes actually, and we were recording in a studio live off the floor, and I played some bass, and I remember our producer kind of like Siegfried saying to me like, holy shit, like you were on fire tonight with that performance of like this one song. And it was with this band that we were in called the Alcoholism together. And you can find the Alcoholism on YouTube. You can find old songs. I think it was called like Demolition in Speed City, and the bass line in it just ripped. Just did it in one take. It was just like wow, 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 wow. And a really slow build. It's a slow burn. It's like really like stoner metal, but punk. I think you dig it. It's got some keyboards in it. It's pretty trippy. But that's like one of my favorite songs that I've performed. I love performing like in the studio because there's so much you can do. I love performing on stage too. Don't get me wrong. But there's so many tips and little tricks and little fun things you can do in the studio. And when you get it in one take and you get it in that like that magic moment, that's always like gold. That's always the lightning in a bottle. Like Spit was. Spit was one of those albums that was just like lightning in a bottle. You got it in that take and you just took it. It was perfect. At times. Not every single time. But like really it was that magic, that studio magic that makes everything sound so cool. What's the best thing about being in a band? Well, what was the best thing about being in Kitty, or the best thing about being in a band in general is like basically like every show is like just like a sleepover with your friends. You get to spend a night on the road, or you get to come home late. You get to party with your friends on stage, like whatever your idea of partying is. Mine's, playing a show. It's fun. You get to play and sing with your friends, and your fans come out, which are your friends and your family too. And you get to hang out, and it's fun. Like, what could be more fun than that? The best thing about being in a band is obviously like the fans and the people that you get to meet and all the connections that you get to meet and like unlikely connections that like end up being friends through fan stuff. It's really cool. It's amazing how many like Kitty fans, Alcoholic fans, fans I had while I was in a band called the Candy Darlings, even things I've just done on my own have become like good buds and all through fandom and it's become friendship. And it's really cool. So that I think is the best part about being in a band at all, that it's humbling, man. It's really cool how many people you can reach and how many friendships you can make and connections you can make just through a band. What do I like most in the world? Oh, that's tough. Like other than like obvious things like my children and my family, like those are going to be like your obvious answers that everyone's going to give. Oh, I love my job. I love this. It's like boring as fuck. Like those are the regular answers. And of course I love all those things. My favorite thing in the world is just being able to be creative, whatever that is, and not be able to draw like borders around it. Cause I posted something on my Facebook, or it wasn't my Facebook. I did post it on Facebook, but I posted it on my Instagram the other day, and it was about how creativity is really subjective and we can't really draw circles around it and compare each other, like compare ourselves to other creatives. Just do what you do and love it. And I love being creative in any way, whether it's making music, making a podcast, writing notes, like researching things for the podcast, doing something artistic like painting, whatever. I really love playing piano. I could play piano for hours and hours and literally lose track of time. But that's something I love doing more than anything in the world, just being free to be creative and just let it kind of flow when it does. Because when it rains creativity, it pours. That's pretty cool. Now, I'm honestly going to get to my favorite question that I got here. This one comes from TikTok. It said that, what are my pronouns? And honestly, no one's ever asked me this question before. And I'm really like proud to answer it. It's really cool because like I say, like this, it hurts my heart to say that we didn't have this kind of education growing up in school. So my pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I really hope that I got that correct. It's really boring. I guess I'm just a boring old white lady in a heterosexual relationship with a male partner who identifies as he, him, and his. I hope I got that right too. But that's the question that I like the most on TikTok. That's the question that I got. And what pronouns do I identify with? No one ever asked me that before, ever. Because in high school, we were just like, are you a boy or girl? Like we weren't taught any differently. We weren't taught that there was something else. And I've had so many friends, like I say, recently be able to come into themselves because of this kind of education in the trans community, learning about pansexuality, learning about transsexuality, bisexuality, just learning about like transgender, so many different facets that are under the umbrella of the LGBTQ2 community, and and then some. It's been astonishing to me and really made me like cry happy tears to see my friends and see people that I love like really come into themselves and be who they really are. So this question really got me right like in the feels. So no one ever asked me what pronouns I've used and what pronouns I do use before, and those are the ones I do use. It's pretty cool because seeing your friends transform from this miserable, depressed person or girl or boy into this human being that now the world is like, limitless to them. They're like, Bradley Cooper in that movie. They take the pill and finally the world is at their fingertips. It's beautiful. It's like watching a caterpillar turn into a butterfly, like blossom out of a cocoon. It's like watching a flower open. You know what I mean? It's beautiful to see someone in bloom like that. That was a Nirvana reference if you didn't get it, but like it is nice to see someone bloom like that big time. And it's good for your mental health because when you can't be the person that you are, it affects your mental health, it affects your anxiety, it affects your self-worth, it affects your self-value and your the way you see yourself, the way you view yourself, and then it'll mushroom onto the way others see you and view you too. And then you can turn to a lot of things: alcohol, drugs, bullying, sex, all the addictions, you know what I mean? It's better to I think it's just better to just be who you are, no matter what your pronoun is, no matter who or what or you identify with. Just be who you are. I think that's the best thing you can probably do. That's what I'm doing. That's why I'm showing up here every damn week. It's like, you know, that song, wouldn't it be nice if we were older, you know, and all those things we want to do when we're older, but we're not quite old enough to do them yet. Well, just be happy with where you are. Like Sheryl Crow says, it's not having what you want, it's wanting what you got. So if you're young, like I say, hold on to it as long as you can. You got the leg up on the world, baby. You got the leg up on the world big time. You can be anything you want to be. You can be any person you want to be. You can be any human you want to be. Just be a kind one. Keep making your awesome TikTok videos. I love watching them. It's fun. Oh, yes, I forgot to answer this question because it's funny because I can kind of answer this one. How crazy was it performing at Ozfest? I honestly, when I perform at Ozfest, I will tell you how crazy it was to perform at Ozfest because I actually didn't perform at Ozfest live. Talina did. Talina Atfield played bass with Kitty at the time of Ozfest. It was right after I left. So literally on the tail end of when I left, Talina was right in. She filled in on bass there and she did a great job. So maybe she knows what it was like to play on Ozfest and the other girls know what it was like to play on Ozfest. I bet it was fun. It looks like it was a great time from what I hear from fans that are close friends, that it was kick-ass and it was a great, like, it was a dirty-ass, fucking rough-ass pit and it was a good time. So apparently that was what it was like to be on Ozfest. And otherwise, favorite memories from Kitty or playing in a band. I think I have a favorite memory from every band. Kitty, like, really is a big, good memory as a whole. It was always kind of like a happy family event. You know, we ate together, we slept together, we lived together, we did everything together. It was very much the four, you know, the squares, the four sides of a box that if, you know, one kind of collapsed, the box was kind of not really a box anymore, not empty. It was not empty, but not full, just not a box anymore. And then, with the Alcoholism, I definitely have the best story from the Alcoholism. The funniest time I think I had with them was we were touring somewhere in Etobicoke and some guy offered to give me a champagne foot bath. He wanted to rip off my fishnets, like a perfectly good pair of fishnets. He wanted to rip through the toes of them, pour champagne on my feet, and then lick them. I'm going to say that's disgusting. And I respectively declined. I was just like, actually, yeah, I'm pregnant. I'm having a baby in like 6 months. So like, yeah, and my feet are swollen. I was just like, get me the fuck out of here. I wasn't pregnant at all. I was horrified. I was like, oh my God, this guy's a raper. He's a raper. He's going to rape me. This is rape. It's assault. It's foot rape. He's a toe sucker. So that's definitely my favorite story from the Alcoholism. Although there are a few more, you know, where people puke in people's mouths. Definitely good stories. I've gotten into those before. Puking in cars, pissing in cars with girls. There's some stuff on some of the old podcasts you can get to if you want to hear about puking in people's mouths. But favorite stories from Candy Darlings. All the shows we played with Thule and stuff called The Office and all the bands we had a chance to play with, like right after I got out of Kitty, playing shows with the Planet Smashers and just having a really good punk scene in London at the time was really good. So that was one of my favorite from all the iterations of the bands that I've played in. Those are all good memories. If you want more good memories, join me every week. I'll be here on the podcast on YouTube at Tanya Candler channel. Click the little subscribe button and it'll tell you. If you click the bell, ding-a-ling-a-ling, when I'm going to be there. I'll be here every week on Sundays with you, hanging out. And you can find me on Instagram at 21st Century Rocker Mom. You can find me at TikTok on the same handle at 21st Century Rocker Mom. I try to get back to all your comments. I'm not so great at the DMs yet, so be patient with me. I'm getting there. I'm getting better at the comment section though. Woo woo! TikTokers, all the kids want to talk. And I'm on Twitter as well at Tanya Candler. You can find me there. But obviously, I'll see you here every week. I love you as well. Thank you for listening. As always, thank you for watching. Be kind to each other. Be nice to each other. I'm sending all you a virtual hug. I'm grateful for you. Take care of each other. Bye.